My grandfather asked me on my birthday which of the Joe brothers I planned to marry. I chose the fifth son without hesitation. The elders were shocked. Everyone knew that the heiress of the Lynne Corporation, me, was madly in love with the eldest Joe son and wouldn't marry anyone else. In my past life, I did marry Jason Joe, but after only 3 months, I caught him canoodling with my half-sister, Lynn. He was tearful, begging for forgiveness. Please, it was just a mistake. I softened, but my grandfather found out and sent Lily overseas. Jason blamed me, and he hated me fiercely. Over the next few years, my family elders passed away one by one. Our market share was constantly stolen and company secrets were leaked. I was hit by a car and died the day I discovered I was pregnant. This time around, I decided to let them be. But then after my engagement announcement, he crashed my party, begging me to marry him. I saw Jason Joe as soon as I left the study. He was sitting among the guests in a bespoke suit, his gaze constantly drifting towards the entrance. When he saw me, one of his buddies nudged him. Your, devoted admirer has arrived. What are you doing here? Jason glanced at me, disappointment clear in his eyes. In my past life, I would have rushed to his side to appease him, but the image of the truck hurtling towards me was still burned into my brain. So I coldly replied, "It is my birthday party. Why can't I be here?" His face darkened at my stiff tone. Hannah, what is the meaning of this? Are you trying to pick a fight? I took time out of my schedule to attend your party. And this is how you treat me. Don't think that just because you talked to your grandfather, our wedding is set in stone. His friends jumped in. Yeah, Hannah, what is your attitude? Apologize to Jason. If you weren't constantly chasing after him, he wouldn't even bother with you. I was speechless. If anyone here is unhappy, please leave. As for my marriage, that will be announced at Grandpa's 80th birthday next month. It is none of your business. I intended to marry the fifth son, but I hadn't even asked him yet. Although my past life, I couldn't announce anything rashly. Marriage, a guest exclaimed. So the two patriarchs are finally planning to retire, and the heir to Joe Corporation will finally be decided. My grandfather and Mr. Joe were lifelong friends, and were long overdue for retirement, and I was the only child in my family. They'd agreed that whoever I married would get Mr. Joe's 20% stake. In my past life, with Jason's existing 15%, he'd become the undisputed head of Joe Corporation. After marrying me, big changes were coming to Joe Corporation. Jason's friends were ecstatic. Jason, you are going to be CEO. Jason's face lit up. Hannah, don't think you've won just because you are marrying me. I hate that smug look on your face. I'll learn from my mistakes. I'll marry you, but I am absolutely not moving into your family home. And before we get married, we'll get your pathetic sister a job. I was about to tell him the marriage was none of his concern, when I realized he'd been reborn too. In my past life, it was a Joe household servant who alerted me to their affair. Now he was trying to. I was about to have him thrown out, when someone timidly called Sister Lily. Her face bruised and pale, approached, drawing everyone's attention. Jason immediately rushed to her. Concern etched on his face. What happened? Who hurt you? Before Lily could answer, Jason glared at me. Hannah, do you always resort to these underhanded tactics? I was about to explain when Lily interrupted. It is nothing. I just bumped into something on the way here. It is Sister's birthday, and even though she doesn't like me, I wanted to wish her well. Jason looked down at me with contempt. Hannah, if you had half her decency. Before he could finish, Lily gently took Jason's arm. Jason, don't be angry. I believe one day Sister will forgive me. Jason embraced Lily, his affection palpable. Let's go see a doctor. Don't want you to have any lasting injuries. Before leaving, he shot me a threatening look. Hannah, mind your own business. If you bully Lily again, I can't guarantee our engagement will go ahead. He swept Lily away. That evening, the birthday party started, but Lily and Jason were nowhere to be seen. They arrived late, just as the party was winding down, leaving only close friends and a few business associates. Lily wore a new dress, her cheeks flushed, her lips swollen. Jason was beaming, his open shirt revealing a hint of red marks. Everyone understood what had happened, their knowing glances sweeping over me. Only my closest friends shook their heads, looking worried. In my past life, I would have immediately slapped Lily, but now I simply sipped my tea. Jason protectively put Lily behind him, expecting a confrontation. Seeing my indifference, he frowned. Annoyed, Lily pulled Jason close and kissed him, oblivious to everyone else. Jason didn't resist letting her sit on his lap. Their blatant display was none of my business. My best friend, Sarah, couldn't take it anymore. She pulled them apart. Lily, Jason is practically Hannah's fiancé. Don't you have any shame? Before Lily could respond, Jason exploded. Sarah, I remember your family has several projects with Joe Corporation's investment. What gives you the right to say that? Let me tell you, Hannah hasn't said anything, so you don't get to lecture me. Jason, watch your tongue. Sarah was loyal to me, and I wouldn't allow him to insult her. Mr. Joe Sr. is still alive. How can you be so sure? I chose you, and you'll get that 20% stake. Jason was stunned, then burst into laughter. Are you trying to spite me? Everyone knows you are obsessed with me, and you'll only marry me. And look at the other Joe heirs. My second sister is married overseas. My third sister locks herself in her room creating art. My fourth brother is in prison. Are you planning to join him? He continued, whatever your reasons, Hannah. I hope you understand the past is the past. No amount of anger will bring your mother back. Let's just move on. Lily is innocent. Innocent. I scoffed when my mother was pregnant. Lily's mother and Lily confronted us. Lily claimed my father had forced her mother and abandoned her, accusing my mother of being a homewrecker. During the argument, they pushed my mother down the stairs, resulting in the death of my mother and unborn sibling. Later, it was revealed that Lily wasn't my father's daughter. She was the child of my deceased uncle, a notorious playboy. Lily's mother was a bar hostess. Innocent. My mother and my unborn sibling were the truly innocent ones. Lost in thought, I was silent. Jason, mistaking my silence for acceptance, said, by the way, happy birthday. He casually took off his tie and threw it at me. Here, this is your present, Lily said immediately. Jason, do you think she'll like it? She won't blame me for stealing her gift. Will she? She loosened her collar, revealing a necklace. Jason reassured her. Don't worry, she doesn't like anything. She only likes things I've worn besides. What do you mean originally hers? Once it is yours. It is yours. They laughed derisively. The tie landed on my face like a slap. I was utterly bored. In my past life, I did love collecting things Jason had worn. His ring when we first met, his tie at our wedding, his watch at his inauguration. I kept them all in beautiful boxes as tokens of our relationship. He laughed at me, say, and they were trash he discarded after wearing once. And only I would treasure them. Things become precious because of the emotions attached to them. He didn't love me, so he couldn't understand. I picked up the tie and tossed it into a nearby trash can. Trash belongs in the trash. Jason flew into a rage. Fine, Hannah. Just wait until our wedding is postponed. That night, Lily and I returned home together. Lily beaming, sister. Even if you marry Jason, you'll only have him, not his heart, or maybe he won't even want to touch you without Jason. She finally dropped the innocent mask. I could get your mother killed. I can certainly steal Jason away. Hannah, you just wait. Everything that is yours will eventually be mine. She thought she'd provoke me, but I merely glanced at her. Then, I wish you luck in moving out of the maid's quarters soon. I ignored her and went inside. My grandfather told me the fifth son was still considering his decision. Jason probably forgot he even had a younger brother. Mr. Joe had a daughter who gave up her inheritance to become a police officer. Because of her love for a policeman, they died together in action, leaving behind their son. This caused great conflict between father and daughter. After his daughter's death, Mr. Joe felt immense regret. However, his grandson rarely visited the family home. After I reminded him, he also realized how much he'd failed to support his daughter and grandson. Even if he didn't marry me, Mr. Joe would leave a portion of his estate to his grandson. Jason was aiming for complete control of Joe Corporation. Unaware that it was impossible, was very much looking forward to seeing how Jason's life would unfold. This time on my grandfather's 80th birthday, the who is who of the city were present. To ensure the party went smoothly, I had a doctor check on Grandpa's health again. Lily saw me and walked over. In the past few days, Jason had taken her on a shopping spree. Her social media posts were full of photos of the pair together. When she saw me, she smiled, sister. My fiancé is so kind. He bought me so many luxury goods. Even measured my body for a custom-made dress. Ignoring her, she continued, he also said we shouldn't be strangers after we marry. We're family, so it's expected. She interrupted my conversation with the doctor repeatedly. I turned to send her away, but then I saw her brooch and froze. It was the brooch my parents gave me for my childhood birthday. My parents were deeply in love. My mother designed it herself, and my father had the best Swiss craftsman created. It symbolized happiness and a fulfilling life. After the incident, my mother died. My father became a monk, and I never received another gift from them. This brooch was one of a kind. I cherished it greatly and never wore it. I grabbed Lily's collar, pinning her against the wall. Where did you get this brooch? Lily started to cry. Cease. Even though you resent me, I always considered you my sister. My fiancé bought me clothes because he felt sorry for me. You shouldn't hit me even if you are angry. I wasn't buying it. Tell me, where did you get it? Who gave it to you? Lily just stared wide-eyed, disgusted. I reached for it. My wrist suddenly seized. A cold voice behind me. Hannah, what are you doing? Do you intend to assault someone in broad daylight? Jason stood protectively beside Lily, glaring at me. Is this how the Lynn family treats their family? Seeing Jason, I understood. Because of my cold attitude, Jason said he would come appease me. Lily had panicked and orchestrated this, but I was too tired to argue. I pushed Jason away and looked at Lily Roach give it back. Lily's eyes flickered with guilt, but seeing Jason beside her, she became bold again. My fiancé bought it for me. Sister, you're so petty. You have so many nice things. Why do you want mine? Oh, really? Where did he buy it? What brand? Tell me. Someone restrain her and take the brooch. I ordered my security, but Jason shielded Lily. I dare you. I am Jason Joe. If you hurt her, you are hurting the Joe family. Hannah, I'm telling you, I bought the brooch for her. You are assaulting her in broad daylight. And you think I won't call the police? His words and Lily's cowering behind him ignited my anger. Jason had seen the brooch before. Even if he forgot, he would have recognized its quality. It wasn't something you bought at a regular store. Yet he sided with Lily. I laughed. Fine. Call the police. Let the police investigate. Let's see if I am wrongly accusing an innocent person, or if there is a thief in the Lynn family. Seeing my ruthlessness, Jason paused. He looked at Lily, then remembered his purpose for coming today. Hannah, I know I went too far the other day. You are angry, but we still have to get married. Before Jason could finish, Lily trembled, removing the brooch. Anything from Jason is precious, but I don't want to anger my sister because of it. Sister, if you like it, take it. I'll give you anything you want. Sister. Jason's expression softened, but then he snatched the brooch. No, you can't always let her get away with this. In the struggle, the brooch hit a flower stand and shattered. I snapped. I grabbed Jason's neck, yelling, "Do you know what you just broke?" Jason struggled for breath, calling for help. The guests were shocked, pointing at me. What is this? Are these wealthy families putting on a show? Help someone stop them before someone gets hurt with the guests. Help. Lily took advantage of the moment, kicking me to the corner. Sister, I can take your resentment, but how can you do this to my fiancés? Lily supported Jason, feigning helplessness. I didn't know the eldest miss was like this. Privately, the second miss seems to be a good person. She rarely appears, but she seems so upright. The eldest miss is this way because of unrequited love. She chased Jason for years without success, so she is resentful. She even resorts to these methods to keep her man. I can't stand her. The whispers intensified. I stared at the shattered brooch. I tried to get up to pick it up, but Lily stepped on my hand. Oh, I am sorry, sister. I clenched my fists, but a male voice interrupted. What are you doing? The voice was deep, resonant, and laced with an icy authority that made the entire banquet hall fall dead silent. Before Lily could even react, a polished leather shoe stepped into my line of vision. A large, firm hand grasped Lily's shoulder and practically hurled her backward. She let out a sharp shriek, tumbling into Jason's arms, her heel catching on the carpet. Get your foot off her, the man commanded. I looked up. Standing over me was a man I had only seen in blurred photographs and brief, hushed conversations among the elders. He was tall, with broad shoulders that filled out a meticulous charcoal suit. His jawline was sharp, his eyes a piercing, stormy gray that held none of the reckless arrogance Jason possessed. Instead, there was a calm, calculated danger in them, the kind born from a life of real stakes, not boardroom temper tantrums. This was Arthur Vance, the son of Mr. Joe's deceased daughter, the fifth son, the man I had decided to marry. Arthur knelt gracefully, ignoring the gasps of the onlookers. He didn't look at Jason or Lily. His entire focus was on me. He took a crisp, white silk handkerchief from his breast pocket and carefully gathered the shattered pieces of my mother's brooch. Your hands are bleeding, Miss Lynn, he said, his voice dropping to a gentle timbre meant only for me. He took my bruised hand, the one Lily had just stepped on, and wrapped the handkerchief around my minor cuts. Then he stood up, offering me his hand. I took it, pulling myself up, my back straight and my chin held high. Jason, recovering from his shock, puffed out his chest. Who the hell do you think you are? Security. How did this guy get in here? Hannah, is this another one of your pathetic tricks to make me jealous? Arthur slowly turned his head. The look he gave Jason was one of absolute, chilling indifference. Jealous? Of a man who resorts to breaking a dead woman's jewelry to appease a thief. Watch your mouth, Jason roared, stepping forward. Do you know who I am?
I'm
Jason Joe. I am the future CEO of the Joe Corporation, and this is my fiancé's house. Former fiancé, I corrected coldly, my voice carrying across the silent hall. And you are nothing but a guest who is severely overstaying his welcome. At that moment, the heavy mahogany double doors at the top of the grand staircase swung open. What is the meaning of this commotion? Barked a booming
voice.
My grandfather, leaning heavily on his silver-handled cane, descended the
Stairs.
Beside him was Mr. Joe Sr., looking older but possessing eyes as sharp as an eagle's. The crowd parted like the Red Sea. Lily immediately turned on the waterworks. She limped forward, clutching Jason's
arm.
Grandpa, Mr. Joe, it's all a misunderstanding. Sister was just angry because Jason bought me a small gift. She tried to hit me, and in the struggle, she dropped her own brooch and tried to blame us. Jason sneered, emboldened by the elder's arrival. Grandpa Lynn, Hannah is out of control. I came here today to offer an olive branch for our engagement, and she assaults Lily in broad daylight. You need to discipline her. If she keeps acting like a madwoman, the Joe family will have to seriously reconsider this marriage. He thought he had all the cards. In his past life, I would have been on my knees, crying, begging my grandfather not to cancel the engagement, apologizing to Lily just to keep Jason's favor. Not this time. Grandpa, I said, my voice steady. Lily stole the sapphire and diamond brooch my mother designed for me before she died. When I confronted her, Jason protected her and deliberately smashed it against the flower stand. And then, Lily stomped on my hand while I tried to pick it up. Lies, Jason shouted. I bought that brooch for her in Paris. I smiled. It was a cold, venomous smile. Did you? Paris? That's fascinating. Because the brooch is engraved on the back clasp. It says, for our Hannah, our little star. Love, Mom and Dad. It was custom-made by a Swiss artisan named Henrik Vossen, who only ever made one. Jason's face went completely blank. Lily's crying hitched in her throat. Furthermore, I continued, signaling to my head of security, because it is my grandfather's 80th birthday, we had temporary HD security cameras installed in all the corridors. Let's play the footage. A screen was quickly brought out. The video was crystal clear. It showed Lily taunting me, admitting Jason didn't know where the brooch came from. It showed Jason snatching it, smashing it, and worst of all, it showed Lily deliberately stepping on my hand while I was on the floor. The room erupted into furious whispers. Good Lord, she's a monster.
The
second miss is a thief and a thug. And Jason Joe defended a thief and assaulted the true heiress. Mr. Joe Sr.'s face turned purple with rage. He walked up to Jason and delivered a resounding slap across his face. The smack echoed through the hall. You worthless disgrace, Mr. Joe roared. You break the last memento of an orphan girl, a child I watched grow up, and you lie to my face. Jason stumbled back, holding his cheek. Grandpa,
I
didn't know. She told me she bought it. He immediately pointed at Lily, throwing her under the bus. Without hesitation, Lily paled. Jason, you said you would protect me. Shut up. Jason snarled. You lied to me. Arthur stood next to me, his presence an immovable wall. A man who cannot even discern the lies of a cheap grifter is hardly fit to run a conglomerate, Uncle. Arthur said to Jason. Jason whipped around, his eyes wide. Uncle? What did you just call me? Mr. Joe Sr. took a deep breath, adjusting his suit. He looked at Arthur with a mixture of profound sorrow and intense pride. Then he turned to the crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Joe Sr. announced, his voice carrying the weight of decades of authority. I apologize for this disgraceful display, but since we are all gathered, my old friend Elias Lynn and I have an announcement to make. Grandpa stepped forward, taking my good hand. Today, on my 80th birthday, I officially announced that my granddaughter, Hannah Lynn, is the sole heir to the Lynne Corporation. And We are thrilled to announce her engagement. Jason rubbed his cheek, a triumphant, albeit bruised, smirk slowly returning to his face. He actually thought he was still the groom. He thought this was the elder's way of forcing us together to save face. He stepped forward, fixing his
cuffs.
Hannah, I forgive you for your temper tantrum. We can work past this. She will be marrying my grandson, Mr. Joe Sr. boomed, cutting Jason off. Entirely. Arthur Vance, the son of my beloved late daughter. He has officially returned to the Joe family and will inherit my personal 20% stake in the Joe Corporation. The silence in the room was absolute. You could hear a pin drop. Jason stopped dead in his tracks. His eyes darted from his grandfather, to my grandfather, to me, and finally to the tall, imposing man standing at my
side.
Arthur. What? Jason whispered, the blood draining from his face.
No.
No, that's impossible. Hannah loves me. She's been obsessed with me since we were teenagers. You can't give him the 20%. That's mine. I'm the eldest son. You are a spoiled brat who has never built a thing in your life. Mr. Joe spat. Arthur served his country, built his own logistics empire from scratch, and actually knows what honor is. The decision is final. Jason looked at me, his eyes wild, frantic, realizing the script of his reborn life was tearing into shreds before his eyes. Hannah, tell them you only want me. I know you're just doing this to make me mad. I looked at him with absolute pity and disgust. Jason, I wouldn't marry you if you were the last man on earth.
I'm marrying Arthur.
I turned to Arthur. For the first time all evening, the hard lines of his face
softened.
He looked down at me, extended his arm, and I looped mine through his. Security, Grandpa Lynn ordered. Throw Jason Joe and Lily Lynn out of my
house.
And remove Lily's belongings from the maid's quarters. She is no longer welcome on Lynne property. Lily screamed and thrashed as the guards grabbed her. Jason was frozen in shock, paralyzed by the loss of his inheritance, his status, and the future he thought he had secured. They were dragged out like trash. The engagement shifted the power dynamics of the city overnight. The stock of Lynne Corp and the newly aligned faction of Joe Corp skyrocketed. A week later, Arthur and I sat in a private, dimly lit jazz lounge overlooking the city skyline. The table between us held 2 glasses of aged whiskey. You used me as a shield, Miss Lynn, Arthur said, taking a slow sip of his
drink.
His tone wasn't angry, it was amused. And you used me to secure your grandfather's 20% without a board fight, Mr. Vance, I countered smoothly. I'd call it a mutually beneficial arrangement. Arthur chuckled, a low, rumbling sound that made my stomach flutter. In my past life, I had been blind to anyone but Jason. I had completely missed out on this man, a man who was intelligent, fiercely competent, and genuinely respectful. True, Arthur said, leaning forward. The dim light caught the sharp angle of
his jaw.
But if we are going to be married, I prefer we operate as true partners.
No secrets.
Jason hates you with a passion that goes beyond a bruised
ego.
Why? I looked into my glass. I couldn't tell him I was reborn. I couldn't tell him about the truck, about dying pregnant, about the bitter betrayal of my past
life.
So I told him the closest truth. Jason and Lily believe they are destined to ruin me. I said quietly.
They
think I'm a stepping stone. I am going to make sure they fall off the edge. Arthur watched me for a long moment. Then he reached across the table and lightly touched the bandage on my hand. Then we will push them together. Meanwhile, Jason was spiraling. Armed with the memories of his past life, he thought he could easily reclaim his glory. Since he was cut off from the main Joe Corp funds, he convinced his weak-willed father to let him leverage their remaining 15% shares to secure a massive loan. His target? The South Bay Development Project. In my past life, South Bay was a gold mine. The government had zoned it for commercial luxury, and whoever bought the land became a billionaire overnight. Jason knew this. He aggressively outbid everyone, sinking billions into the barren coastal land. He even went to the press, bragging about his visionary genius and openly mocking Arthur and me for missing out on the deal of the
century.
Lily, acting as his devoted secretary, fed his ego daily. Without the Lynn family funding, she had nowhere else to go. She clung to Jason, using her body and her sweet lies to keep her position. But Jason forgot one crucial detail about South Bay. In the past life, the only reason South Bay was a success was because the Lynn Corporations spent an astronomical amount of money lobbying the city council to reroute the upcoming subway line directly through it.
We also covered up a
Massive underground chemical leak left over from an old factory on the premises. I had handled all of it for him, working sleepless nights to ensure his success. This time, I didn't lift a finger. 3 months after Jason finalized the purchase, the city council announced the final blueprint for the new subway line. It completely bypassed South Bay, heading straight into the Northern District, where Arthur and I had quietly been buying up real estate. The next day, an independent environmental agency anonymously received a tip about toxic soil at South Bay. The resulting investigation halted all construction. The land was deemed a hazardous waste site. Jason's multi-billion-dollar investment turned to dust overnight. I watched the breaking news from Arthur's office. On the screen, reporters were hounding Jason outside the courthouse. He looked haggard, his bespoke suit wrinkled, his eyes bloodshot. The bank was calling in his loans. His father was facing an emergency board vote to strip him of his executive titles. "You knew," Arthur said, standing behind me. He rested his hands on my shoulders, his thumbs gently drawing circles. It was a casual gesture, but it sent a warm shiver down my spine. Over the past few months, our arrangement had evolved. We spent our days destroying our enemies and our nights talking until dawn. I had a feeling. I smiled, leaning back slightly against him. Without my family's political connections, South Bay was always a toxic swamp. Jason's arrogance blinded him. "He's cornered now," Arthur warned, his gray eyes darkening. "A cornered dog
bites."
I've doubled your security detail. I don't want you going anywhere. Without my men, I can take care of myself, Arthur." He turned me around, his large hands gripping my waist. His gaze was intense, burning with a fire that left me breathless. "I know you can, but you are my fiancée, Hannah, and I protect what is mine." He leaned down, and for the first time, his lips met mine. It wasn't forceful, but it was incredibly deep, a promise sealed in the quiet of his office. I kissed him back, letting go of the last lingering ghosts of my past life. I finally knew what it felt like to be cherished. While Jason was drowning in debt, Lily decided to play her final card. She went to the media. She gave a tearful interview to a gossip outlet claiming that the Lynn family was heartless. She painted herself as the tragic, unrecognized daughter of my father, cast out into the streets, while I hoarded the wealth. She claimed she was innocent and that I was a cruel tyrant who stole her fiancé out of spite. The public, always hungry for scandal, started to murmur. Some even sympathized with her. I decided it was time to end the charade once and for all. I hosted a press conference at the Lynne Corporation headquarters. The room was packed with journalists, cameras flashing like strobe lights. I wore a sharp, tailored white suit, projecting absolute control. Arthur sat in the front row, a silent, lethal guardian. Recently, there have been claims made by a Miss Lily regarding her lineage and her treatment by the Lynn family. I began, my voice amplified by the microphones. "I am here today to present the truth." I pressed a button on a remote. A massive screen behind me lit up, displaying a series of documents. DNA test results, old police reports, and financial ledgers. "Lily is not my father's daughter," I announced, my voice cutting through the rising murmurs of the press. "She is the biological daughter of my late uncle, Thomas Lynn, a man who was disowned from this family for embezzlement and fraud. Her mother was a bar hostess who conspired with him." The journalists frantically took notes. "But that is not why she was removed from our home." I continued, my voice growing colder. 20 years ago, my mother, who was pregnant, tragically fell down a flight of stairs and died. It was ruled a tragic accident. I switched the slide. It showed a sworn, notarized confession from an old housekeeper who had worked for the Lynn family back then. Thanks to a private investigation launched by my fiancé, Arthur Vance, we tracked down the former staff, I said. Lily's mother didn't just happen to be there. She deliberately pushed my mother down those stairs to clear the way for herself, hoping to blackmail my father into marrying her. And Lily, though a child at the time, was taught to lie to the police to provide her mother an alibi. The room erupted. Journalists were shouting questions, cameras rolling. "Warrants have already been issued," I stated calmly over the chaos. "Lily's mother has been apprehended at the border. Lily herself is currently being brought in for questioning regarding extortion and accessory to corporate Espionage, as she has been stealing Lynne Corporation data to feed to Jason Joe. I looked directly into the main camera, knowing Lily and Jason were watching. Somewhere, trash belongs in the trash. In a dingy, low-rent apartment on the outskirts of the city, Jason stared at the television screen. His hands were shaking. Beside him, Lily was crying, hysterically, packing her bags. "Jason, we have to run. The police are coming. You have to give me money," she shrieked. Jason slowly turned his head to look at her. The illusion was completely shattered. The beautiful, delicate, innocent girl he had thrown his entire life away for was a fraud. The daughter of a crook and a murderer. He remembered his past life. He remembered how I had managed his diet, negotiated his contracts, covered up his mistakes, and loved him with a blinding devotion. He had thrown me away to protect Lily. He had blamed me for his grandfather's anger. He had hated me, and now he realized the horrifying truth. He was the fool. He had thrown away an empire for a snake. "You," Jason whispered, his voice trembling with rage. "You ruined everything." "Me?" Lily screamed. "You're the one who went bankrupt. You're the one who lost the Joe Corporation. You arrogant, useless piece of shit." Jason snapped. He grabbed Lily by the throat, slamming her against the wall.
She
gagged, clawing at his hands, but his grip was like iron. "I was reborn," he muttered, his eyes wide and unhinged. "I was supposed to be the king. I was supposed to have the money, the power. Hannah was supposed to crawl back to me." He threw her to the floor. "Get out. If I see you again, I'll kill you myself." Lily didn't wait. She grabbed her suitcase and scrambled out the door, only to be arrested by the police waiting in the lobby downstairs. Jason was left alone in the dark apartment. He had nothing. His father had disowned him to save his own skin. The banks had frozen his assets. But, in his twisted mind, there was only one person to blame: Hannah. If he couldn't have his second chance, neither could she. It was raining heavily the night Jason made his move. Arthur and I were attending a charity gala at a coastal hotel. The event had been a triumph. Grandfather Lynn had officially handed over the CEO position to me, and Arthur and I had announced our wedding date. Around midnight, my assistant approached me. "Miss Lynn, there's an issue with your grandfather's medication in the car. The driver isn't answering his phone." Arthur was across the room, speaking with the mayor. I didn't want to interrupt him over a minor logistical issue. "I'll go check," I said. I took 2 of my security guards and headed down to the underground parking garage. The garage was dimly lit, the concrete echoing with the sound of the rain. Outside, we approached my sleek black Maybach. The driver's seat was empty. Suddenly, the screech of tires echoed through the concrete cavern. Blinding high-beam headlights flooded our vision. A massive, heavy-duty pickup truck was hurtling straight toward us. The engine roared, accelerating with lethal intent. My heart stopped. Time seemed to slow down. The image of the truck hurtling toward me. It was happening again. The crushing metal, the shattering glass, the feeling of my blood pooling on the asphalt, the memory of my unborn child dying with me. I froze, paralyzed by the phantom pain of my past life. Hannah, a figure blurred past my guards. Arthur. He had noticed my absence and followed me down. He didn't hesitate. He tackled me hard, wrapping his large body around mine as we hit the concrete, rolling violently out of the truck's path. Crash. The truck slammed into the Maybach, crushing it against the concrete pillar. The force of the impact shook the entire garage. Smoke and steam hissed from the mangled engines. Arthur grunted in pain as we stopped rolling, having taken the brunt of the impact against the ground. But his arms never loosened around me. "Hannah, look at me. Are you hurt?" I gasped for air, trembling violently.
No, imukay.
"Arthur, you're bleeding." A gash on his forehead was leaking blood, but his eyes were sharp and furious. The door of the pickup truck kicked open. Jason climbed out. He looked like a madman. His face was bruised, his clothes torn, and he was holding a heavy steel wrench. He limped toward us, ignoring the security guards who were now drawing their weapons. "Drop it, Jason," one of the guards yelled. Jason laughed. It was a broken, hollow sound. "You ruined my life," he screamed, pointing the wrench at me. "I came back to fix everything. You were supposed to love me. Why did you change? Why?" I slowly stood up, Arthur holding my arm protectively. I looked at the pathetic, broken man in front of me. All the fear I had felt moments ago evaporated, replaced by cold, absolute closure. Because I remember too, Jason, I said quietly. But in the echoing garage, he heard every word. Jason froze. The wrench trembled in his hand. You what? I remember the 3 months of our marriage, I said, my voice steady and piercing. I remember finding you in bed with Lily. I remember you blaming me for your grandfather's anger. I remember my company's secrets being leaked.
And
I remember the truck. Jason's eyes widened in sheer horror. The realization crashed down on him like a physical blow. He wasn't the only one who got a second chance. I had too.
and
From the very first second, I had been playing a game he couldn't even see, let alone win. You knew, he whispered, falling to his knees. The wrench clattered to the
ground.
You knew everything. You killed me, Jason, I said, my voice devoid of any emotion. You killed me. And the baby I was carrying. You thought God gave you a second chance to be
King.
but you were wrong. He gave me a second chance to ensure you rot. Arthur signaled the guards. They moved in, pinning Jason to the wet concrete.
Floor.
Sirens began to wail in the distance, growing louder. Jason didn't fight back. He just stared at me, tears streaming down his face. Exactly like he had done in the past life when I caught him cheating. Hannah,
Please.
please, I'm sorry. I loved you. I realize it now. I loved you. Save your tears, I said, turning away from him. Trash belongs in the trash. 2 years later, the sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of our penthouse, casting a warm golden glow over the breakfast table. Are you ready for the board meeting, Mrs. Vance? I turned. Arthur stood in the doorway, dressed in a perfectly tailored navy
Suit.
He walked over, pressing a soft kiss to my temple, and handed me a small, velvet box. What's this? I asked, raising an eyebrow. Our anniversary isn't for another month. Open it, he smiled softly. I unclasped the box. Inside, resting on white satin, was my mother's brooch. I gasped. It wasn't exactly the same. Where Jason had shattered the sapphire and diamond, Arthur had had it reconstructed. He used the Japanese art of kintsugi. The broken pieces of the jewel were bound back together with veins of solid gold. It was no longer perfect. It was scarred, but the gold made it more beautiful, more resilient than it had ever been. I had Henrik Vossen's apprentice put it back together, Arthur said quietly, wrapping his arms around my waist from behind. Things become precious because of the emotions attached to them, but they become invincible when they survive being broken. Tears pricked my eyes. I turned and buried my face in his chest, inhaling the comforting scent of cedar and expensive cologne. Thank you, I whispered. The television in the background was murmuring the morning news. A brief segment flashed across the screen regarding a prison brawl. Jason Joe, serving a 20-year sentence for attempted murder and corporate fraud, had been severely injured by another inmate. Meanwhile, Lynn was currently serving her own sentence in a women's penitentiary, completely forgotten by the world she had tried so desperately to manipulate. I didn't even turn to look at the screen. Their story was over. They were ghosts of a timeline that no longer existed. I pinned the golden, scarred brooch to my lapel. I looked in the mirror. I saw a woman who had died, who had been reborn, and who had taken her destiny by the throat and molded it into an empire. I turned back to my husband, taking his hand. Let's go, I said, stepping into the sunlight. We have a company to run.